There's plenty of rare and expensive Skylanders out there, but how exactly did they get to that point? How do Skylanders become so expensive? Most of the time, it's not due to just one factor. It's due to a bunch of things put together. But in this video, I'm going to be going over all the reasons all your favorite Skylanders have become so rare and expensive over the years and why they're worth so much money nowadays. Of course, inflation will just increase prices that are already very high in the modern day, but in this video, we're mainly actually looking back at when Skylanders was actually coming out, 2011 to 2017 pretty much, and looking at just why Skylanders became so rare and expensive back then due to really Activision and release cycles and different region exclusives and all this different stuff, store exclusives, all the different reasons why they got so expensive. So let's get right into it. One of the most common reasons for Skylanders being more sought after and expensive today is because they were overshadowed and sort of forgotten about and useless in game back in the day when Skylanders was still coming out. This is very much seen with Skylanders like Blackout, Spotlight, and Echo, a lot of Trap Team cores, because cores and Trap Team were made useless. And with the new elements, look at Spotlight and look at Nightlight. Who are you going to go with? Nightlight, you need him to access the Sunscraper Spire, and he comes with a light trap, whereas Spotlight doesn't do anything. It kind of makes sense why Spotlight didn't sell that well, and nowadays a lot of people want her and she goes for a very high price tag. Same with Echo and Blackout. But another big reason these are pretty rare is because they were compiled on top of being late wave Skylanders, which we'll get into later. But just Skylanders that are forgotten about, sort of brushed to the side, people don't really feel like they need them. Of course, no one buys them and they become more sought after nowadays because less of them sold and more of them were sadly thrown out or sent to warehouses that have still not been discovered. The next reason has also generated a lot of pretty rare Skylanders, and this is just late release waves. If a Skylander is released super late in that game's life cycle, there's a much higher chance they're going to be rare. This is once again the case with the Trap Team cores we just mentioned, but also just Skylanders like Enigma or Thrillipede or Robo were released super late in their respective game, and that just ended up with them not selling as well. One, later released Skylanders tend to have less produced, and two, a lot of people have moved on from the game. When you're talking about months and months after a Skylanders game has come out, a lot of people have just moved on with it and are waiting for the next game and have sort of stopped collecting. So those later released Skylanders tend to sell worse, and they also just have worse stock, which leads to them just being more expensive nowadays because a lot of people didn't end up with them. And then there's stuff like store exclusives. Store exclusives can also lead to some pretty expensive Skylanders. So notable ones are Steel-Plated Hoodsicle and Chompy Mage. Steel-Plated Hoodsicle was actually a store exclusive to Best Buy, same as Steel-Plated Smash Hit, but Steel-Plated Hoodsicle goes for a lot more, and Chompy Mage goes for pretty much more than any other Skylander. He was an Amazon exclusive. The issue with Chompy Mage, which is once again compiled onto by another issue we'll get into later, is that he was on Amazon, which was sort of not nearly as big as it is nowadays back in 2016, and so he just did not sell as well. People were going in store to buy their Skylanders, and this guy just wasn't there. You couldn't find him in store. Steel-Plated Hoodsicle, of course, you had to go to Best Buy, which was one of the least popular places when it comes to buying Skylanders. A lot of people would go to Target, Toys R Us, Walmart, GameStop. A lot of people actually look past Best Buy, which has led to Steel-Plated Hoodsicle becoming more rare nowadays. Obviously, if most Skylanders are releasing in all these different stores, and then you have one Skylander that's exclusive to one certain store, it just makes sense that that Skylander is going to become more rare because less people are going to run into it while hunting for Skylanders. On top of all that, there's also Skylanders that are multi-pack exclusive. Skylanders that you need to purchase more than just that one figure to actually get them. Of course, this goes back to Chompy Mage. Being on Amazon, he was only in a Villain 5-pack. You had to buy 4 other Senseis if you wanted to get this guy, which is going to turn a lot of people off immediately. Also, Skylanders like Royal Double Trouble, where you had to buy an entire starter pack just to get this variant. Or Breeze. Breeze never came in a single pack. You had to get Breeze with a pet vac. Or you look at the Volcanic Vault. You had to spend a specific amount of money at Best Buy to get the Volcanic Vault. Stuff like this has become more rare and more expensive because you can't just go out and buy this Skylander. You have to buy them with a bunch of other stuff or spend a certain amount of money to get this figure, which of course turned a lot of people off. If you're going to want to go out and get one figure and you have the option Taekwon Crow, or I can get 5 villains from Imaginators for way more expensive, what are you gonna go with? Of course, you're just gonna get Taekwon Crow. You're not gonna get 5 villains from Amazon. It's really goofy how they structured that, and so there's some figures that become very rare just simply because you couldn't get them by themselves. You had to buy a bunch of other stuff that maybe you don't want. And one of the most infamous reasons is just stock issues. A lot of Skylanders had their issues with stock. Just staying in stock at stores proved to really be difficult for Activision. I don't know why, but Skylanders like Double Dare, Trigger Happy, Rocky Roll, and Blastertron were simply low in stock a lot of the time, which led to not that many people ending up with them. This definitely compiles on top of late wave releases. If you release in a later wave of a Skylanders game, there's going to be a lot lower stock of you, which leads to these Skylanders, of course, becoming more and more rare because less people end up with them. Double Dare Trigger Happy was a very late wave supercharger Skylander, and now he's very expensive just because not that many people ended up with him. There's also Rocky Roll, another late wave Trap Team's core that had also, I mean, he's late wave, he had stock issues, he was overshadowed by more popular options. There's just so many reasons why Rocky Roll became so expensive. Rocky Roll is definitely another one. There's also Blastertron. Blastertron released super late into Imaginators, and now he goes for like 30 to 50 bucks, anywhere in that range, which was all because he released so late and he had poor stock because of that. These guys were released late, and now they just have a very low amount of Skylanders in stock. If you go to any certain store, likely once they run out of stock, there's a low chance they'll even ever restock that figure, which has led to all these Skylanders becoming more and more expensive just because they have that low stock issue. Again, most of these super expensive Skylanders have become that expensive because of a lot of these different reasons combined, added on to modern inflation and people just wanting that Skylander. Say you look back a few years ago and a Skylander like Robo was about $300. Nowadays, after inflation as well as just popularity, people realizing that they want that Skylander because he is that expensive, his price has gone up. There's a higher demand for that Skylander, which leads to the prices going up. That's just how it works. But that's more modern issues. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, just going through all the reasons why Skylanders became expensive due to Activision back in the day when the games were still coming out. I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye, guys.